Namaskar, sir. Namaskar, Nitin, sir.
Namaste.
Very, very, very grateful, very excited, and very happy also to have this opportunity to have this discussion with you. And because I've been reading your amazing scholarly book and I've been making so many notes out of it. So I'm actually very excited to have this conversation, actually pick your brains around the book. And but yeah, thank you so much. And I'm thankful to Vitasta for making this happen.
Yes, definitely. I have been, engaging with your book and reflecting on your book for the last 1 week, and it is very wonderfully written and very close to my heart. So I'm looking forward to this conversation on both our books.
Grateful, sir. I'm so thankful. It means a lot. So, like first of all, sir, I wish to begin with let's like addressing the elephant in the room, so as to say, because Manusmriti, I'll talk from a from my own perspective. Like growing up in school and college and everything, whenever I used to hear the word Manusmriti, it was always a very loaded word. The book, Manu Maharaj's the image that has been created, because I had no idea, and in fact, I was also one of those people before reading your book who used to think, oh, is it even relevant? Why is it relevant? So I would love to hear from you. Like, please tell us more about Manusmriti. Why did you write this? And then we'll come to the Chatuh Shloki part.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent question.
yeah,
You rightly said, while growing up, most of us will not even have heard about Manusmriti, much less, the negative things will comes much later on. So for the large part of our schooling and all, I think except for Bhagavad Gita, we would not have heard about any other books.
agree.
So that is an unfortunate reality of Hindu society over the last few decades. But that aside, my own introduction to Manusmriti, or the first time I started, came across this text in a more serious manner, happened when I was researching for my book, Menstruation Across Cultures. So, at least a decade back, when I was researching on that topic, and I'd wanted to know, there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of taboo about Hindu practices related to menstruation. It is oppressive, this, that, and all. So I just wanted to find out what is the truth. So how do you find out what is the truth? Ultimately, you have to go to some authentic sources. So
Mhm.
as I was
Yeah.
searching, what is the source of these practices? Is there a philosophical basis for these practices? So it was then that I came across it. Perhaps I may have come across these texts much before, but never give much attention to it.
Attention to it.
Yeah. So, but that was the first time when I came across this Smriti genre of texts. Starting with Manusmriti, Yagyavalkya Smriti, Parashara Smriti, and there are 20 plus other Smritis. And I realized that a lot of our religious cultural practices, they have either a direct or indirect basis in these texts called smritis, and
Shrutis.
yeah, and which are technically called as dharma shastra. So
Okay. That was
now,
another question of mine. Yeah.
yes.
Thank you for clarifying, because Dharma Shastra is something that I read in your book and I wanted to have that, what is the difference between Dharma Shastras and Vedas and how they connect? Yeah, please.
Yes.
Sorry, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, if you take the term Dharma Shastra, it means Shastra means a technical treatise which presents on a subject matter in a very systematic manner. And it
Hmm.
not just presents a topic in a systematic manner, but also it gives, it orders the subject matter. It says how it should be, what is it, what is correct, what is wrong, and all such things. So Dharma Shastra means those texts which do this with respect to dharma. So in a very broad sense, even Veda is a Dharma Shastra, because the Vedas are the
Hmm.
ultimate source of dharma. The Manusmriti
Okay.
says Vedo Akhilam Dharma Moolam. So Veda is the Mula, the very root, the basis of dharma. But however, so the Vedas, the Smritis, the Dharma Sutras, the Itihasa Puranas, all are Dharma Shastra in a very larger, broader sense, in the sense that they all teach Dharma. But in a more technical sense, the Smritis are specifically called as Dharma Shastra because they alone have the most systematic presentation, most technical presentation on the matter. So Itihasa Puranas on one hand, they are narrative structures. So they depend upon Smritis, they derive from Smritis, they borrow from Smritis, they are kind of dynamic commentaries on the Smritis, but nevertheless they are narrative. They are not textbooks, they are narrative, they are storybook kind of
Right.
books, right?
Right.
On the other hand, Veda is too transcendental. It has mantras, it has brahmanas, it has aranyakas, it has Upanishads. So, and many things are merely indicated, and a large section of Vedas are not available to us today. Only a small, tiny section is there. So the rishis who were very versed with the Vedas, who had direct perception of the infinite Veda, they, for our benefit, compose the Smritis. So the Smritis are also called as Anumeya Veda. From the Smriti, whatever the Smriti says, we can infer the presence of a Veda, even though it is not directly available to us. That means it shows the Vedic basis of Smritis. So that is why it is called Dharma Shastra in a more technical sense. So, this kind of, when as I have been researching the Smriti Shastras, especially Manusmriti for the last more than half a decade, and I have been trying to figure out things slowly, because unfortunately we don't have easy access. Unless you find a proper teacher, it is very difficult to find even proper material, because there is a lot of material from Western Indologists or even many of our own scholars, but they are mostly, when it comes to the material in English language, they are not from a traditional perspective. That is, they are more from a historicist perspective. So this is how my engagement with Manusmriti began.
And I mean, I can see it. Like when I see this book, it's here with me, and there's so many parts that I've highlighted because I realized you've made many things very easy. Like here also, you explaining the concept of Dharma Shastras. It is very, because it is enlightening. I've realized, because when we hear Smriti, if a person understands, so they think it's like a memoir. But here, what you're trying to explain, these really elevated beings like Manu Maharaj and the rishis that you mentioned about, it's not just like a memoir. They didn't write about themselves, but they wrote about the benefit for all of us. Like later on, the generations they can consume, perhaps have accessibility to the knowledge of the Vedas, and hopefully, so another question comes is like you've also mentioned in one of the in one part of the book, and I'm sorry, I want to continue on this thing only before we jump on this thing, because there is, like you say, it's not a law book. Often it is understood, because I think the problem that whatever my limited understanding be of the subject, and also after reading your book, which has gotten better only, it's that like for us, we keep hearing the word, it's like a law book, it's oppressive, it's this and that, which we'll come to later, the oppressive section or whatever the misconceptions about the book may be. But then, so it's not like a law book, but it's more like, please, I would love for you to define, like, what exactly would be the purpose then.
Yeah. See, basically, the book covers the Chatuh Shloki, the opening 4 verses. And in the reason I picked up the opening 4 verses is, it actually clarifies on all these questions. What is Manusmriti?
Okay.
What is the purpose? What is the object? And whom it is written for? And what is the end result? So how it is, there is a narrative in the beginning of Manusmriti, wherein the sages approach Manu Maharaj, who is seated in meditation. So the Swayambhava Manu, the great Maharshi, he is seated in meditation, and he is approached by rishis, and they request him for teaching about dharma, which can lead to well-being of all humanity, all the different groups of the world. So this is interesting. So it is, when we think of law book today as the very notion of positive law is a very recent thing, just I think more 200 years, perhaps not more than that. The very notion of positive law, the notion of constitution and all. So we think Manusmriti was like a constitution that we relate today, but it was not so, because the very notion of constitution and positive law is very recent in international history, right? So it is not like that. So when somebody approached Manu Maharaj, at least the narrative structure is that, so it is a Gurukula tradition, Guru Shishya Parampara, the knowledge transmission happens, and the purpose is Loka Kalyana, right? So now While
Mm.
Manusmriti or any other Smriti is not a law book in the contemporary sense,
जी.
they are nevertheless the basis of the law also. Why? Because
Ah.
these Smriti Shastras, they have three major divisions as far as subject matter is concerned. One is Achara, which is about our Varnashrama Dharma, the conduct,
Mhm. Mhm.
basically,
Mhm.
how to live, what kind of duties we have towards our family, towards our friends, towards our society, towards our own self, towards our ancestors. So all this comes under Achara. And
जी.
then if you violate these duties, if you do adharmic activities, then there is prayashchitta. So that is one section, prayashchitta or expiation, the
Okay.
ritualistic mode of expiation. And other than this, there is vyavahara, which is basically the legal jurisprudence. So it is about, so achara is about personal practice and the ritualistic practice. The vyavahara is about, social interaction in a non-ritualistic, rather in a transactional sense. So all this
Mm.
civil, civil issues or criminal issues, everything comes under vyavahara. So there also the point to note is dharma shastra, smriti being a dharma shastra, its primary concern is dharma. Whereas when it comes to all these civil cases such as contracts and or criminal cases and all, there is also element of vyavahara, in the sense element of the transactional world that plays a part. So there is the eternal element is the dharma, the other is a temporal element. So that is
Mhm.
unique to the legal jurisprudence part of the dharma shastra. So that means that we don't need to, when we read the Dharma Shastra, we have to always keep in mind that there is a temporal element which may change from time to time, but there is also the eternal element, namely the karma phala relationship, what kind of adharma lead has what kind of magnitude of
Mm.
papam, right?
Mhm.
So then that is the purpose there, is to help us design our own legal jurisprudence today, here and now, so that can be, as close as possible to the ideal of karma phala. Ultimately, what is the purpose of punishment, danda? It is not just because a criminal is committing, he has to put in a jail. It's not just that. It's not just about reformation, that is also there, but it is also about freeing them from the karmic result,
Mm.
the
Yeah.
papam, right? So
Yeah.
the smriti, the dharma shastra vision is much larger, more
Larger.
transcendental,
Yeah.
more inclusive. So this is how it is. So you asked about the relevance, and we all thought that it is
Yeah.
outdated, but the fact is that there is much in the smriti shastras that are as relevant today as it was in the past, and it will relevant 2000 or 20,000 years from now, because it also, as I mentioned, it has a lot of content which is eternal in nature.
Mm.
So there are many examples that could be given on this, but here I want to, I want to bring up your book,
Okay.
the Hanuman Flies to Ravana's Lanka.
Okay.
I love the cover, by the way, and
Yeah.
the best thing I really enjoyed in the book is how it is reflective in nature. It is very simply written. Anybody can simply pick up any page. There is no necessary that, though it deals with the Sundarkand, one can pick any chapter and, take the rasa and reflect upon one's own life based on that. So my congratulations to you on this. So my question to you is, as I was engaging with the book, reading and reflecting, what I found very, very interesting was, beneath all this, beneath the story of Sundarkanda, Hanumanji's story, beneath the storytelling, beneath the self-introspection part, there is also an underlying, a silent push to the reader to cultivate endearment, to cultivate love and devotion to Bhagavan in the form of Maruti. So, was it really planned to be in this way, or was it something that happened by the anugraham of Hanumanji himself? And so, just shed a light on what made you to write this book, especially adopt this format. Was there any incident, any triggers, that motivated you to write it, especially in this way, about the subtle push towards, developing bhakti among the readers. Do share your journey on this.
Thank you, sir. I think it's a fantastic question, and so grateful for your kind encouragement. It means a lot. Uh, I think, sir, when I was very fortunate enough to read the Gita at I would say at a very important juncture in my life, just before I was entering college. So that is the time where people usually, I mean, at least in my day and age, that is when people started which you talk about, the deracination that actually starts getting. So I think I was fortunate enough. So when I went to college again, by the incredible grace and of Sri Hari, I found good people around, and I used to share about our stories. So what I'm again understanding, I think, like Manusmriti and all these dharma shastras, as you're talking about, they're like textbooks, but the stories people connect with. Anybody, even if they're not so familiar with the text, or even if they're not practicing Hindus per se, they would connect to the stories. So, and then when I started writing about eight odd years back, that is what I used to. That is how I used to approach the text. So for me, a lot of my life has been shaped by our stories, our itihas, as we call it, Srimad Ramayanam, Sri Mahabharatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, the stories of, because of Ken, at least I'm trying to be an upasak of Bhagwan Shri Krishna. So for me, that has been very special, and the stories were the most special part for me. I realized that, maybe philosophy, I don't know how much I can understand or connect or relate, but at least I love the stories, and that was a way, like how in our northern part of India, Goswami Tulsidas ji, how he writes in Sri Ramcharitramanas that Jane binu nahi hoy pratiti, binu pratiti nahi hoy priti. So first you need to understand, and approaching ke liye, to understand the story is the best way. So but I also realized it has helped me a lot as a person, as a human being, in my day-to-day interactions. A lot of times when I'm erring uh, as a human being, when I'm interacting with people, the stories, the character, the charitra of our deities, that sometimes it creates that little barrier. I mean, from like how you talk about, like how Manu Maharaj talks about in Manusmriti or in the Dharma Shastras, what to do, what not to do, as you so beautifully explains. This is what our Dharma Shastras are doing. So for me, from from the example of the deities, from our devatas, from there I used to understand. Oh, okay, because I want to do upasana, I want to get closer to the deities, I will restrict myself. But there are so many things to learn. So when I started writing, I used to use a lot of examples from our scriptures, and connect them to our day-to-day world. So now when you ask me, sir, like how did this happen? Now even I'm a little confused that how did this grace happen? Because if somebody asks me today, I was like, I don't know how, why did I dare? But yes, at least one thing was there, sir. I did not have an end in mind. I thought, okay, let me just start writing Hanumanji's story, because Sundarkand is so powerful, and let me see if I can keep finding on something which I can make it a little relatable for our people, like at least people of our day and age and generation, and even people, like I have mentioned often, even in the Instagram videos that I've done, that what, even if you're an atheist, even if you're a Nastika person, even if you do not connect to our Vedic Sanatana Dharma, still if you pick up at least the our Itihasa texts, be it Ramayana, Mahabharata, they are invaluable. Invaluable. I think these are our treasures. This I truly believe. So. And So for that purpose, I thought, okay, maybe if I take this approach, then people will be inspired to read the original and then come to our Dharma Shastras, then come to, like keep taking a step above. So yeah, that was the idea.